Welcome to Injector Confidential, the podcast by injectors for injectors. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Nicole.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. We're episode 4 already.
We are like banging these out and we are loving it. We are having so much fun.
I know. I feel like we can't wait to get on to the next one. Not to help we're fueled by a lot of cold brew.
And can we talk about the fact that we have 4 subscribers? I feel
4 full subscribers,
guys,
which
that's
is 4 more than I expected.
And the fact that anybody would be interested enough to subscribe, I think, is just very endearing. We
It's
appreciate
super
it.
endearing. And we've gotten so much good feedback. And like Kristen and I both have gotten like teary talking about it.
Yeah.
Just totally sober too.
So many sweet messages and reposts. And yeah, it's been like really just a testament to just this community and how excited we are to, and just, I think also too, it just goes to show that like an aesthetic safe space is so necessary.
Yeah. And we're just happy it resonated with people so far.
Absolutely.
It's so awesome. So thanks for the feedback. We love to hear it. Like yesterday, before we headed out to Palm Springs, I had a really awesome training, and Kristen started smiling at me because I was like so hot to tell her all about this training. We all know I'm a Galderma diehard.
And I'm an allergen horde.
Yes, majorly. So together we make the perfect
Yeah, together we are one whole person.
We are one whole person. I lacked training opportunities in the past. So it's really cool to get these training opportunities. And a lot of times I feel like people want to get fancy and they want to go crazy during a training. I love a solid on-label training, man.
Yeah, because
Back to basics.
yes, that's what it is. Back to basics. And like you were telling me about being like defined and refined in some areas.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought to do. But it just goes to show there's an FDA indication for a refit.
Absolutely. And I forget that all the time because I think that coming from the world of peds, everything is off label in peds.
Right.
So that's just like the norm for me. So I think I just get so used to, I'm like, yeah, we can do it off label. It doesn't matter. But like you said, there's a reason, there's an indication, and it's because there's clinical trials to back it up.
Totally.
Chris and I both can say this, like, I love Lauren Reed as a trainer.
Yeah.
I just love her. But it was so hilarious because, guys, it doesn't matter how experienced you are. Like, you still fuck up sometimes. And it's very humbling. I was trying to inject my model Remus, not the gonial angle, not the mandible. I was trying to get the back right at that angle to pop it out. And I was going in at this weird angle that I honestly saw on Patreon. And I've been trying to do because it looks fancy. And I see her come from across the room and she goes, "Friend, what are you doing?" And she goes, "Just go in at 90 degrees. And it was the truth because I kept slipping off the bone. My model was uncomfortable. And she was like, your problem is you overcomplicate it.
I love that Lauren Reed, we've both done multiple trainings with her on allergen and Galderma, and she's fantastic.
She's wonderful.
We have to link her Instagram in the show notes because she's so
cute and so relatable. But I just loved that she was not afraid to call me out in such a kind way. She was like, "Friend, what are you doing?
Please stop.
Please stop."
I will say the one thing that might actually convert me over to Galderma besides you is our rep. We have a fantastic rep.
Dude, Carson will convert anyone.
She really genuinely is one of those. And we're going to like probably have her on the podcast here.
Totally.
Because
Yeah,
we really want to dissect what that relationship looks like with the reps and like how important it is. And she's fantastic.
and truly, I consider them like our friends
Absolutely.
at this point.
Absolutely.
Carson has been such a big champion for this podcast too.
She's amazing.
Wonderful. So I can't wait. So that might be some premium content.
Yeah.
You guys, is talking with reps, how to become a trainer, all that kind of stuff. And we thought that we'd increase our relatability factor, not only with the fact that I'm an experienced injector, but I still fuck up because I try to make it look cute. But you guys, we're midweek at this hotel in Palm Springs. And it's aesthetically the most beautiful hotel. There's so many little
It's cute.
and it's not meant to be Instagrammable. It's just, this is the modern, like just like modern contemporary aesthetic of Palm Springs. But Kristen and I are like, all right, content time.
Busted. Yeah.
It's like 10 a.m. and we're out there taking photos and we're like, oh yeah, with this lighting, people are judging us.
They're like,
They're watching
not
us like
right.
this is, yeah, like, but I was like, what are you doing? If you're not taking pictures of this place, it's beautiful.
because they're like reading or whatever.
Right, exactly. They're sitting there being wholesome and reading.
We're drinking and taking
We're sipping our rosé and taking photos at 10 a.m.
It's for you guys. We're bringing
It's for you guys. Yeah, there's this gorgeous bougainvillea arch, and the lighting was not quite right at 10 a.m. I saw somebody laughing and pointing at us when we were like in front of our phone talking to other. We're like, no, but like maybe from the inside looking out, it would be better. And it's not vanity, honestly.
No, it's Professionalism.
It's professionalism, and I like to think that we're just inspired. I personally, I know that Kristen feels the same way. I don't like to be in front of the camera. I'm awkward, but it's part of the job.
Yeah, and it's just and when you get into your groove, like, we have a branding shoot coming up, and, like, the photographer, I worked with her before, she's fantastic because she gives so much direction, so that I can do and, like, get into my zone. The problem is I have such strong resting bitch face,
Oh, same. It's all
and I feel
shocked.
awkward in my smile, and so, like, my photo shoots go instantly from, like, fun and playful and professional to, like, sexy.
That's amazing. For me, it ends up looking like flat mugshot.
I've had that experience as well.
And then the rest of our agenda today, other than continuing to take pictures when we're at golden hour because there's more spots, we're going to continue to annoy the shit out of this hotel. But we're having the best time. And we said that maybe we'll record like one episode, but we were just sitting by the pool, hopped up on our cold brew, and we said we were just so inspired. We were like, we have to do a second one. So this is a topic that we feel really strongly about from building from the ground up, both of our social media and our clientele. But we want to talk about building a brand. Yes. And we have 10 specific concepts that we want to talk about. So I can't tell you how excited I am about this.
I'm super excited about it because it's not just building a brand for the sake of a brand or an Instagram following. I think that we have a very specific niche. As injectors as a whole, we have a really unique opportunity with building a brand because it's not just for building social proof and building a large following. It's about actually getting that to convert to individual appointments and relationships with patients. And so these steps that we're going to give you are perfect for both. So it's going to be really exciting. And we hope that it helps you guys as you guys build your brands.
Yeah, and I love that so much because this is such a specific niche. It's more than becoming an influence. Most of the time, most of people that go into aesthetics don't plan to have brand deals or any of that. They go in for their own platform and to find clients.
Absolutely.
And have a landing page for people to come back to and say, this is what I do and this is who I am.
Yeah. And for me, it's been such a good conversation starter with patients to either for them to say, like, hey, I saw this before and after in your page, and I really want something that looks like this, or just that relatability factor of, oh my gosh, I saw your reel and that was so funny. Or
Right.
you said this and that really resonated.
That's so true, especially for before and afters. It really streamlines things.
Totally.
So the first step, not so much steps, I won't call these steps, I'll call them elements.
Yeah.
So the first element, I think, if you're trying to be methodical and have some longevity, is truly observing before you dive in. And that doesn't mean that you have to do exactly what other people are doing. I observed for about a year and a half before I dove in and decided that I'm going to start my own. I saw what I liked, I saw what I didn't like, and I saw what the gaps were.
And were you like looking at their aesthetic, colors? What were you looking at specifically?
I was looking at photography technique. I was looking at people's stories. I was looking at their reels. I was looking at their grids. And I was looking at captions too. What was driving the most engagement? And one of the things that I identified more than what I liked was things that I didn't like. And I had to identify what it was that I didn't like. I wanted to do it differently. Kristen, did you do any observing? I feel like design comes naturally to you.
Yeah, but it's changed. It's definitely evolved, even just because my first place of employment, I was not allowed to have social media. And then the second place I worked was very heavy on social media. And that was interesting because my aesthetic was very different from the med spa's aesthetic. And so, but they were super cool and let me do my own thing. But it's changed for sure. It's evolved. And I'm definitely the type that's like have to be like a done is better than perfect kind of vibe. Otherwise, I will get stuck in that like grasp of perfectionism. So for me with that, I was like, okay, I think I was just so excited to be able to like have social media and I just jumped right into it. But I think had I actually done like some market research basically and to see what was actually going to be beneficial, I think I would have saved myself some time and effort for sure.
Oh, I like that. But you just dove in.
I just freaking had to.
Sometimes that's how you figure it out is by doing.
For sure. And I feel like in most things in life, it's easier when you have momentum to pivot as opposed to getting started. For me, getting started is always the hardest piece, but I can like alter and I can change things and I can fine tune as I'm moving forward.
I love the piece of advice about done is better than perfect. Oh, so many of us are perfectionists, and I know I am crippled by my own self-inflicted perfectionism. Sometimes you just got to put the content out there.
Totally.
Nobody sees the flaws. I'm telling you right now, unless you're crazy, nobody sees the flaws that you do. And
True.
along with the topic of observing, one of the things that I picked up is an advantage that I had was that I wasn't afraid to break the mold. And one of the first things that I saw was that most injectors at the time, back in 2020, like pandemic time, that they followed a very specific patterned grid. And as much as I like structure and order, I'm an abstract gal.
Yeah.
And I find that so beautiful and engaging. And I thought to myself, it was like, okay, when I was setting up my grid, I was like, what do I attract to when I'm looking at art? And for me, it's always abstract because it draws my eye in and it makes me think and it picks up an overall vibe. I just felt like for myself, a strict grid with patterns and colors was too stuffy.
Yeah.
And
It didn't flow with what you were trying.
right, it didn't speak to me and me as a person. And I also liked too a little bit of cheekiness
Mhm.
because that's me as a person is being a little bit inappropriate and maybe slightly crass at times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not so much I'm not being professional, but that's what spoke to me. And I thought got it like in playful elements.
I like that. I think I've done it both ways. And for me, where I found the benefits of having a more like regimented pattern was when it came to the like actual diligence of content creation. It kept me accountable. It kept me like knew what my next post was going to be. I had it did it ahead of time. I was able to like pretty easily jump in and be like, "Oh, I need a before and after real fast," and, like, go back to my, like, photo album of before and afters. And then from there, I was able to, like, reach out and still keep somewhat of a pretty fluid aesthetic just because that's how my mind works too, but I'm like you, I don't want it to be too stuffy or too branded or too inside the lines because that's not me. My patients would be in for a real shock.
Totally. Yeah.
If I had this totally curated vibe and then they saw me and they were like, "Oh god." In fact, oh my gosh, I don't know if I told you this. I had a patient, brand new patient. She comes in and she's like, "You don't look anything like your Instagram."
She called you a catfish.
Yeah, I catfished my patient. I was like, what? I was
Correct
cracking up.
too.
I don't know. I was cracking up and I was like, I'm going to choose to take that as a compliment.
Not a catfish, but
Yeah.
more like what's an upscale cat? A koi fish.
Yes.
Catfish is catfish versus koi fish. You were more of a koi fish vibe, more elegant in
Yeah.
person and colorful.
I'm going to choose to take that as a compliment.
Wow.
And
Oh
you better
my
hope I
God.
don't drop your brow.
You better hope that comment doesn't end in doses, sweetie. Die. So if you like to follow a grid and it keeps you accountable, just what the first thing is just know yourself, know what works for you.
Absolutely.
And if it doesn't work for you, what's the norm? That's also okay, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
I learned that in my doctorate. You don't need to reinvent the wheel in order to get the job done.
Yeah.
And you can always pivot. Like you said,
Right.
you can always pivot. You can always rebrand and recreate. So if you're not stuck to a vibe, you'll just figure it out as you go, like we are right now.
Absolutely. One of my favorite tips for building your brand is be authentic. And it's like in general, that's sort of like our goal as injectors. But I think when it comes to specifically building my brand, think about what values you hold as an injector as far as like your personality goes. As far as for me, mine is the mind body connection. I'm a big believer that like one that aesthetic should be accessible to everybody, regardless of what they can afford. I think that on some level, aesthetic should be available to everybody. I believe that beauty is a journey, the melding of the inner and the outer journey. And so that's my thing. That's authentically who I am. And that's like what I try to reflect in my social media because that's what I'm also then bringing into the appointment. And it just makes it feel more fulfilling when you're doing it. We all know social media is a grind and it's like obviously its own full time job most of the time. And so if I can authentically post based on my values and what's important to me, it just makes the whole thing feel more fulfilling and more exciting.
And less of a chore.
Absolutely.
Yeah, social media can feel like a chore. It's normal for it to feel like a chore, but
Yeah.
you don't want it to feel like that all the time. And like you said, deciding what's fulfilling to you and what makes it authentic to you is a lot more exciting.
Yeah. And the fact that I'm like you, I'm crass, I'm inappropriate. If you see my reels and TikToks, I love to be silly. Like humor is a huge like core
Oh,
value of mine. And so if a patient were to look at my Instagram or look at my posts, look at my reels, look at my stories and feel like I'm not vibing with her, I don't think that she's going to be their best injector for me, then I would be like, yeah, please go find someone else that probably would be better for you.
Yeah.
It's better to know that like before the appointment's even made than to be three surges deep in someone in real life. The way we see the world is just not aligning. And then that's obviously more complicated. So
for sure. Yeah, it's harder to break up with somebody than to just screen them in advance. Kind of like Tinder. It's like online dating.
yes,
Social media is kind
better to
of similar.
swipe left than to have to break things off or ghost. But
Ghost or block. So what's swipe right versus swipe left?
swipe right is a yes, swipe left is a no. And this is a total side note, guys, but like by Bumble. So Bumble is once you match with someone, girls message first.
That's
And like
correct. Yeah.
it's like feminist dating app, right? So my go-to message, and I like full disclaimer, got this off TikTok, but I give them an option. I tell them that they can choose their own adventure. I can ask them a question. They can give it to me as a compliment, or I can roast them. So of course, the guys that choose the roast are like, those are decent humans that I would want to like interact
It's
with.
a TSA pre-check, if you will.
Exactly. The ones that choose compliment, I compliment their narcissism. And then the ones that ask for a question, I ask them when the last time was that they cried. Unrelated, I've been single. On an unrelated note, I've been single for 7 years.
And then on another unrelated note, the reason I ask these questions is because I totally miss the online dating phase.
So Nicole's gonna help me roast some people later.
Oh, and one of the other things as far as emulating your personality, a big part of my personality when I look at core values and what I wanted to get out of Instagram was destigmatizing injectables and making it relatable and understandable for people. Because I
I
think
love that.
because I think that it's too high level for too many people. And they say, I don't even know. I'm scared because I don't know what the difference between Botox and filler is. I was like, okay, then I'm going to answer that. I'm going to put it right there on my grid. So then
Absolutely.
right there, you feel comfortable. And then you opens up the floor to be like, okay, if this is here, I'll ask her about other questions. You think about other things and adding in the just enough science, just enough talking about my thought process with doing a consultation or somebody's treatment plan. I do think it makes people feel more comfortable in knowing that I think about the whole you. I'm methodical about it.
Absolutely.
And I truly think that it's not a chore to do those captions or make them a little bit longer or anything like that. Cause it's truly, that's me as a person. That's me as an
I
injector.
love that.
And this is one that I got from my girlfriend, who's actually a social media manager for me. She helps me out. We'll get along to delegating too, but have an engagement squad on every platform. And it's easier if you have the same engagement squad for every platform. She told me when I started my TikTok and my Instagram, she said, have a group of 8 to 10 girls or guys or whatever. That's your engagement squad. They have accounts and they comment and share every single post as you're getting started until you blow up, which like sounds dumb. That eventually you won't need them anymore. It's like a baby bird leaving the nest. But
Totally.
8 to 10 people, and it's really tough because you have to be vulnerable and say, I need your help with something. And this may seem calm and self-serving, but I need your help. And could you, especially with your first post on your Instagram feed, say, hey, can you post this to your story?
Absolutely. Oh, I had no shame when I went, especially when I went out on my own. I have a core group of friends that they see me for injectables. They like have referred me a ton of people. And I was like, hey, you don't have to say that you're my patient. You can just like what it is that we're friends. But will you post this on your story? And every single one of them did. There was like a group of like 10 or 15
Yeah,
people.
nobody said no to me.
Yeah.
And to this day, they continue to like, share, comment, and be my biggest supporters.
Well, and what I tell patients, this is a little off the topic, but I get asked a lot, like, are tips customary for
Yeah,
patients? And like,
great
I
question.
always tell them, let's be real. Hell yeah. Will not say no to money, but it's never expected. And as someone who's building a small business, reviews and social media posts are gold. And so if you could just post, if you want to get a selfie with me, if you want to take a picture of my studio and post it on Instagram, that would be
That's the best tip.
yeah,
The best tip. We love money too, but like that's the best tip
But
because
I-
it brings in cool people.
exactly. Cool people, and there's certain people I'm like, it's okay, you don't have to post. But like, it brings in good, high quality referrals. And okay, so maybe they would have tipped me $50 to $100. Just bringing in one patient is already going to quadruple that amount.
Totally. Yeah. And you have built a whole new relationship and then they refer people.
Yeah.
So I love that tip about no pun intended tip. Get it? I love that. Yeah. Always take the review or the social media post over the money. If I had to make a choice, that's always what I say.
Absolutely.
And
I love the engagement squad.
dude, the engagement squad is money when you're curating and continuing to post. It's easy to get sidetracked and start to say, okay, now I'm a little bit of a creative block. When I'm feeling that way, I think about what kind of content do I want to put out there to attract the ideal client? Who is my ideal client?
Yep.
And then that kind of helps you gear like what's important to them. What do you think they want to know? What do my current ideal clients, which should be all of your clients, what do they want to know or what are they asking me about? So for example, built into my feed are Q&A and I write down in a note on my phone about what questions I continuously get. And sometimes I circle back to them because one of mine most recently was, what happens to my skin if I stop Botox? And that's such a good question. And people are afraid to ask because they think it's stupid. Or
Right.
what is microneedling? Ooh, they inadvertently answer the question that somebody is thinking subconsciously.
Oh, totally.
And that attracts people in. So that's one of my little tricks. But Kristen is the curator of feeds. So I'm interested. How do you use Instagram, TikTok, other than obviously humor is for sure one of our core values, but what else do you keep in mind when you're making content?
So similar to you, I utilize polls, I utilize questions. I'm constantly like feeling out what is it that my patients are needing to know. And like you said too, like even in the appointments and my consults, like what am I getting hit with in my DMs? I just keep a running tab and then I post to those things. So I think that's really helpful. And then also when I think about my ideal client, who is the type of patient that I would wake up in the morning every day and if I saw this client, if every patient on my schedule was this particular client, I would feel like I was having the best day ever.
Yeah.
And so I've created this list of Leslie now. This wasn't always the case in my career, but honestly, now I do feel like pretty much every single patient that I have truly is my ideal client. But before I was at that point, I had a list of patients that were like not my favorites, but
Mhm.
ones that I felt in most alignment with and felt like life giving when I was with them. And I wrote down core qualities. So it was like that they listened, that they would come in for their follow-ups, that they were willing to see this as a long-term relationship. They did what I said. They were willing to invest. They asked, they were educated. There were certain things, certain qualities that made that a really valuable experience for me. And then I just showed up every single day as the injector that I was in the room with them. And so that was for me, that's been really beneficial. And I really feel like even though I'm still building my practice and would love to see it increase like even more and think about the quality of the patients that I have. And I'm like, yeah, it's taking me longer to build than maybe some that should
Quality over quantity every single time.
absolutely. I look forward to my days injecting so much more because every single patient is just so wonderful.
And sometimes, like what Kristen said, like I love it takes time to build that clientele
Yeah.
and go for the longevity. But one of the things that I fucking love that Kristen does is showing her face in her stories, and she's so consistent about it. So there's a trick that I saw on a social media feed that said the key to upping your engagement is starting your day with a picture of your face or a story and
Mhm.
any kind of question, something that engages,
Yes.
something that bumps you up in the algorithm and also just engages and makes you more relatable.
On stories.
Yes, on stories. Yeah. So as far as putting a story out there, I guess it could also be a post, but stories are so much more highly utilized that putting a picture of yourself and then any kind of engaging question. But of course, there's a double edged sword to being consistent. Posting and making a schedule keeps you accountable, but some days you're just not feeling it.
Oh my gosh.
Your mental health is not there. You're busy. Don't force yourself to post if you do not feel like it.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be authentic and you're going to resent the process
Yeah. And your mental health takes precedence every time.
every single time. And you know what? Being on social media and being on these platforms is draining.
Yeah, as much as it's a creative outlet for me, and there's so much that I do enjoy about it. We've talked about manifesting your best life and career. And one of the things on my like manifestation list for my business is that I'm not dependent on social media to
Yes, yes, totally. And to be honest, too, I don't think other than people that are close to me don't know this, but back in April of 2021, I was finishing up my DNP. I was prepping to take board exams. I took a 4.5 month hiatus from TikTok
oh my God.
entirely because I sat down with my social media manager, Kendall, and just said, I don't have the creative capacity for this. This is a chore. It makes me sad. It makes me anxious. I feel like I am adding another pressure that I then cannot fulfill. And I don't feel like I'm putting myself out there when I put myself in front of the camera. So looking back on those stories in the beginning of April, it's just funny because I feel like you look a little dead in the eyes and you can just tell.
Yeah.
But then by the time that I felt ready to come back in August, put myself back out there, that's when I went from having, let's say, like 2,000 followers, I went up to 20,000.
I love that.
So, like, as much as consistency comes in, I had to make sure that it was true to myself at the same time. And if I wasn't feeling it, it was not going to work.
Oh, I completely agree with you. And if at the end of the day, my choice is to post something on Instagram or to spend time with my kid, that's why I chose this career, was so that I could spend time with my kids and spend time with my family. And yeah, I totally agree. I think when you're in the right headspace and consistency feels actually like a form of momentum and excitement, then that's amazing and that's great. And maybe in those moments, like plan a few extra posts for when you know that like mental health is going to have peaks and valleys. And so just keep an extra few posts on the side that you can easily post if you need to just have a reprieve from it. But I think it's good to get in the habit of posting just because it does get you more in tune with your ideal client.
Definitely.
Helps you figure out what's important to you as an injector as
Yeah,
well.
trial and error. And I think the big takeaway here is consistency is important, but obsession is not.
Totally.
Yeah, have some and like top of having boundaries. Have a time of day that you stop.
Yeah.
Do not be posting at 9 p.m. unless that's like your work time and like your time that you're like grinding. That's your creative hour. Don't post all day long.
And if you're posting on TikTok, especially, and you're getting comments that are taking a toll on you,
Yes.
then either don't read them, have someone else
Set up a filter.
set up a filter. There's so many ways that you can protect your mental health. And we're actually going to be doing a mental health episode here pretty
Definitely.
soon. But I think that that's huge too, because if you're not your best self, you're not going to be anybody's best injector.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really good point too. Bullies are real, internet trolls.
Seriously. The next tip we have is engagement with other injectors and small businesses in your demographic and in your area. And I love this. And it's something that I think that maybe the last 6 months or so, and I've actually been doing more. And I love it. It's so exciting to like other injectors and pick them up and like, just get ideas for like, gosh, like how I saw somebody do RP as a breast lift. And I was like, you stepped that time. I was like, I need to know every detail about that. And like that injector responded and was like, yeah, look at this post. And I just love like I love that community vibe. And you never know when it's going to benefit you to have those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And also partnerships are so great. And especially if attracting your ideal client is centric to where you are, especially because since I'm in La Jolla and I'm in Bird Rock area of La Jolla, and it's very centric to having its own little community of people that walk everywhere. They live there and people come from Pacific Beach, which is just a little bit south. And that's where they go to hang out, walk. When I set up my studio, I knew that it was important for me to find other businesses that I aligned with and just basically hop into all of them and put myself out there. I have no shame. I had a shame act to me at one point in my life. I don't know where it is. And just like that part of me is amputated.
I love that.
It's gone.
There's no room for shame.
Yeah. And it's even beyond getting money and having there be financial incentive out of partnering with other businesses. It's so great for your mental health and also just feeling like you're not alone, especially if you're starting a business. And knowing that there are other businesses there that to back you up. My favorite one is a bar studio that I partner with. I've loved them. It's my girl gang, my local Bird Rock girl gang, and they've given me so many wonderful clients. And I've been able to talk to about them with my clients who are looking for a community. It's just a wonderful, very reciprocal relationship.
Yeah, I love that. I don't have that where I'm at. I'm in Temecula. And but what I do have is this really cool social media marketing group. And it's a bunch of basically like local, some of them are just women, stay-at-home moms and stuff, but a lot of them are small business owners. And we all joined this marketing thing. It's called Social Agenda. And they do events, they like the engagement squad things on our post. There's all kinds of things. There's also they're really privy on like what events are going on in town. So you can show up, network, market, and like, get to engage with them on social media. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, I love also just boosting up other people, boosting up other smaller injectors with less followings. I love all of that. And it also does drive you up in the algorithm. That's the other, it's a win-win for sure. And then this is one that I love, delegate and hire out where you need it.
Yeah, we could definitely speak to this. Do it if I could.
Kristen,
My to-do list.
the difference is Kristen's good at everything. I have major limitations in some of my abilities. And in my past, I came from med spa where originally I did everything. I didn't have a scheduler. I did all the scheduling on my own, everything. And then we ended up hiring people and I realized, oh, there are people that are better than this. They are better than it. And that's good. So I can focus on injecting. So it's just all about energy conservation. Where do you want to put your energy? And is it worth it, even when you're starting up, just to put your money and invest in having some time to yourself or taking some stress off? So for me, as I was beginning the social media life, I obviously being a nurse and coming from hospital background and then working at med spas, I had a vision, but I didn't know how to execute it. And I didn't know how to use Canva later and all the things that I needed to. I knew I could figure it out, but I knew it was going to take a lot of time. And so being in grad school, I just knew I needed some help. So one of my best friends, shout out to Kendall, she is a social media marketing queen. It's what she does for her job. She's now in corporate, very high up social media. So I hired her. And that was the best money that I ever spent. In fact, she is the reason that Portrait found me.
Is she really?
Yep, because they found me through my Instagram.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
So Kendall is the reason that I am here today, which is so cool.
That's amazing.
So that was the best money of 2020 that I ever spent. The other thing outside of social media, it's okay to ask for help. That's the backbone of it.
Yeah.
But also marketing. It's okay to partner up more than partnering up with a group like what Kristen does, but also just paying somebody to help you with marketing is great.
Yeah.
If you Instagrams work for your demographic, do that. Interns are another gray area. Some people do that to just basically take advantage of people that want to get into aesthetics and help you.
Yeah.
If you have an intern, make sure you pay them and give them non-benefits.
I've seen a lot of, I've actually had a lot of nurse injectors or a lot of nurses message me and say that that they've been given an opportunity to be in a med spa or plastic surgery office, and in turn, like they would be trained, but then they would take over social media. And my advice with that to them was, I think that's awesome and that's like invaluable experience on both ends. But I was like, get a very specific contract of this is what your training looks like. This is what your social media expectations are. How many posts, how many stories, how much engagement, how much training are you actually to spell it out? Because to me, especially in business, like so many times, like the end of a relationship is unmet expectation. And if it's not spoken, then you're going to fail.
Yeah, always get it in writing.
Absolutely. So where I am really good at delegating, I'm not great with delegating at my business. And it's honestly not because I'm a micromanager. It's because I love it. I enjoy it. It's small enough at this stage in my life that I can manage it, but I delegate a lot at home. So
That's even better.
yeah. So I know saying this, it feels like a position of privilege, but like definitely like I have a housekeeper. I have utilized Instacart. I DoorDash a lot.
She's a DoorDash VIP. We learned that last night when we had our sushi mishap.
Apparently, according to customer service at DoorDash, I am a loyal VIP customer. So one of their most loyal VIP customers, which I felt slightly offended by. All that to say, and then I have my mom is like my personal assistant when it comes to like my kids. And so I delegate a lot in my personal life so that I am able to focus wholeheartedly on my business. But I do think you are such like aspirational goals as I grow to see, okay, it is okay. Like it's okay. I think if I'm honest, I've been working through this with my therapist. There's two things that have held me back from delegating. One, it's the trusting. I trust someone's going to do it as well as I could, or that would meet my expectation, which is ridiculous because, as you said, there are people who devoted their entire career to this. So obviously, like I'm just sitting here on Canva wondering if some pro could do better. Then of course they can. And secondly, with being an Enneagram 2, even if I was paying the person, it feels like I'm putting a burden on someone. And so
So just
I'm like working through that right now in therapy because I know that's the next step for me in order to scale what I want and be the business that I want to delegate.
yeah, and it's okay. This is off of the building your brand, but just in building a business, that it's okay that you can't do everything. One of the biggest things that Chris and I have talked about is taxes. Oh, that's taxes. So I ended up hiring a CPA. Yes, that was an investment, but it keeps me out of jail.
Which is like our number one,
It's our number one life fear. We both of us early in joining Portrait and meeting each other, we both figured out that's like one of our very high level fears is going to jail because neither of us would survive.
I would be a prison bitch. Freaking that.
I would not be the pod boss.
No.
I would be the do girl,
Yes.
the one that's like sweeping and like getting the commissary
100%.
and like the bookkeeper. That would be me because I just no.
Oh, yeah.
No, I've got no life skills when it comes to prison.
It didn't help that I was in like knee deep in Orange is New Black when I met you. And so I was just like, yeah, this is like a real fear.
I was balls deep in 60 days in. We were talking about this last night, 60 days in, which if you haven't watched it, I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. Go watch it. Christian culture is fascinating to me, man, but not so much that I would ever want to be a part of
Oh
it.
my God.
So sometimes your investments keep you out of jail.
Yes.
But there are people that can do it better than you, but I've never thought about it being a burden, but that's so valid and interesting. So Once again, recognize your limiting beliefs is one of those. Send you to, but do not be afraid to hire out at home, whatever you got to do. I love that you have a housekeeper that's so freaking bougie and aspirational. A big part of building your brand is patience. If you know me as a person, I lack patience. And that's one of the many reasons why I freaking left Discord, man. You can see it. I see it in 2 days, baby. With Botox, I'm sitting in the mirror saying, where is it? Where is it? So this is part of that. Plan and give it time. Yeah. Be intentional with your planning, but know that building any kind of following, clientele, it takes commitment and you got to invest. All of us start with 0 followers. If you are forgetting about that, remember that we have 4. That's ready. Count on one hand how many subscribers we got.
And I know how freaking excited we are for the
4. I know. I'm like, I want to give them a t-shirt. I know. Who are they?
I love it. I love it.
So yeah, exercising some patience. And Kristen, how long have you had your Instagram?
A year.
A year. Okay. And she's at almost 10K followers.
Yeah.
So because she's freaking good and consistent at it.
Yeah. And I think anybody can have a post that goes viral. But when I was joking with Nicole, like I had one post go viral on TikTok, but I wrote it.
Unexpected.
It was like to the Adele song. And I was like sitting in my car crying. Like that was my post. It had nothing to do with aesthetics. So all that to say, you can have a post that goes viral. You could gain a lot of followers from that. But is it actually going to convert you to a paying client? No, that did nothing for me. And yeah, cathartic in its own right. But I think all that to say, to build a substantial following that's going to engage with your posts, be the right ideal client,
Make you money.
and make you money.
Yeah, it takes time.
It takes time and be okay with that.
I remember how excited I was on my first day with Portrait in my studio. My second client, I always ask clients too, like, how'd you find me? That was my first client who said, I found you on TikTok. You came on my For You page. But guys, I have been doing it I did take a quick hiatus, but like I had it for 6 months. And it wasn't until probably about 6 to 8 months in that people started finding me on Instagram hashtags.
Yeah.
And as an impatient person, I ask myself a lot, is this working? Is this working? Like, I think that's an okay thing to ask yourself and to re-examine, but don't change your tune just because it's not working fast. Once again, we're going for the long game here with your brand.
Absolutely. And that's such valuable advice. Always be reevaluating. I think the fact that you keep track of metrics, I think is huge. And everything is just information, guys. You don't need to like make rash decisions off of like post it to the algorithm or I posted it before and after and I didn't get the engagement that I wanted. Again, are you posting to your ideal client? Like, does your ideal client want to see before and afters, or are they more wanting to see educational information?
And what kind of before and after? That has been a learning curve for me as well.
That's a good one.
What kind of, like, more than photos? People generally do so good with video and photos.
Yeah.
And also that's back to tip number 8. But if you can delegate out and invest and get a videographer or a professional photographer for content and just batch that, boom. I'm just telling you, efficiency on fleeky. But as far as planning and giving it time, it's just really curating it once again to your client, trial and error, see what works, but use your Instagram analytics and use your TikTok analytics and see what posts are performing well. And if you have one that pops off, say why. Yeah, it's really take a look and then look at your second most performing and say, why did that one pop off? And then continue to recreate with that in mind. You're not going to make a banger after banger.
Right.
You're not Pixar.
Right.
Pixar is the only thing, the only person metaphorically that can put out a banger after banger after banger every single time. Finding Nemo, banger. Monsters Inc., banger.
I'm the one with kids and I like don't know. I haven't seen half as many Disney things.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's the pediatric nurse thing. My pro tip, if you have kids, I'm telling you, and you've got a baby that won't stop crying, put on Aladdin. That beginning scene with Robin Williams, that there's a place and a ledge. They're always tranced by it.
Oh my God.
It's chaotic.
13 years.
I'm telling you, every single time with those crying babies in the hospital, I was like, I'm going to pop on some old school Aladdin, man.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
And the number 10, is this controversial?
I think but I handle it differently.
Yeah, there's the one thing that my social media manager tells me not to do. Please don't be controversial. And I seem to like attract that. Because it's already handled.
We're upfront on it.
Real raw and ratchet. That's the tagline. That's Injector Confidential. But if you want to have a personal Instagram, I say keep personal and business separate, Instagram separate with a catch. And Kristen's a perfect example of this.
If you scroll back on my feed far enough, because it wasn't always a professional account, there are
Oh, I have because I stopped you.
yeah.
I just want to see what you started. I want to see baby beatingers,
Oh
Kristen.
my God, what a treat. And okay, so where I shifted when I switched to a professional account was my grid is reserved for work and work only. And sometimes in my comments or like in my captions, I may get like a little more personal, but I reserve that for stories. So I do think that there is a component that, at least for me, my brand, my authentic self, and my ideal client, that has actually helped me build relationships with my patients by posting some things that are more personal, but it's curated. If the things that I choose to share are things that I feel like are going to help my patient feel more connected to me and more invested in our relationship. Things like posting some stuff of my animals or like what my day to day life looks like or something that might be funny, just different things. And I have patients a lot of times, they'll bring that up. They'll be like, oh my gosh, how are your dog? Today I got a message like, I think our kids go to the same school. Like, things that are going to help us feel connected and invested. And even if they're not my patient yet, it's like that top of mind awareness where as soon as they think that they're maybe ready for Botox, they're going to think of me because we've connected on a different level.
Yeah, it's subconscious, man. And we always are relational and we go towards what's familiar.
Yeah,
So I think that's such a psychological hack
totally.
that you've uncovered.
But I think it may not be right for everybody. And I
That's true.
think some people, it's like easier to just have that delineation of like work and personal life. But I think that's totally fine too. I think you just need to figure out what works best for you. And I've just realized that actually my posts that get the most engagement are the ones about my professional life.
Yeah.
And tear trough.
So freaking tear troughs. We're going to do a bonus episode. I just said it right now about tear troughs because as much as yes, I have tear troughs done, so does Kristen, and I do them. They're a pain in the ass, man.
It's a lot of
Cause me a lot of anxiety and undo. But on that, so if you like tear troughs, I would love to know why. Other than after purposes.
and I would just love to know your approach. Yeah, I would love to know like what percentage of patients do you like have to follow up with, and does almost is like
Let's get real here, guy. Let's get real. And there's certain things I think that adding in elements of your personal life is good. My friends are so supportive of what I do for work. And in their stories, if it's kind of shows like a little bit more of like a day in the life, like us out at drinks and we're at like a San Diego spot, they'll tag my Let's Talk Spot. Then I repost that because it shows that I do support the San Diego community.
totally.
And that's part of my life. And I think that does speak to people. And then sometimes from the location when people will be like, they'll be like, oh, you go to Pally Wine or you go to Karuva. I love it there. People always know about Jet, my dog,
Yeah.
before they even come in.
It's a rock star.
He is a rock star. Or I know, but don't feel like you need to, if it's uncomfortable for you to put yourself out there and talk about your personal life, you definitely don't have to.
Yeah.
But elements of it are sweet.
It is. It's
Yeah.
a way to connect, but it's also just keep in mind it's a way that like depending on what you post or just I guess maybe my one thing for me, I don't ever post anything political
Oh, yeah.
or like that would make my patients feel unsafe with.
I think about things that you wouldn't talk about on a first date
Oh, I love
and don't post about that. So
that.
politics,
Religion.
religions. Yeah. And it's not that it's okay if those things are important to you, but I feel they're very polarizing.
They are. And like as I've grown as a person and as an injector, I think one of the biggest signs of maturity is being able to not have an or mentality, like it's either or,
Right.
but an and mentality. So I think about that in context of my patients. Like they have different political beliefs than me, or they have different religious views. And I love them and they belong here and they add diversity. They're welcome here. This is a safe space for them. And
Sure.
feel if I were to be posting stuff, then I'm going to make them feel unsafe and like that they can't trust me as an injector. And that's a hard line for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm not expecting that this attempt to go that way, but I feel so passionately about that is that we need to be a welcoming and safe space where our beliefs stay out of it. I'm here to carry on a service and take good care of you regardless. And if somebody asks you those things in your practice, feel free to be just have a pat freeze that kindly shuts it down and feel empowered to do that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Social media, it's so funny. I love reality TV. That's another one of my quirks. But there's Summer House. There was like one of the quotes on it is like, summer should be fun. And I always think to myself, my social media should be fun.
I love that. I tell my patients that all the time. This is like getting us off into more of a consult territory, but if I'm doing a consult and I have a patient that feels like any kind of trepidation, like I can see they're like looking at the little handout I gave them and they're like, let me text my husband, or like I can see they're like trying to figure out how to transfer money. I always stop them and I'm like, injectables should be fun.
Right. That is
Should
so
feel
true.
exciting. You should feel anticipation, but you should not feel trepidation.
Yeah.
And so I'll usually, even if I have a patient that's okay, I'm gonna do it. I'll be like, no, no, I'll take a break. And here's my next available appointment. Let's book you for that. And then and if you're totally ready to come in at that point, I learned this the hard way. That's why. And so if I feel any sense of hesitation, nothing. Just you're coming back in
Injectables should be fun.
injectables should be fun.
That is going to be on our merge someday.
Yeah, it's fat and real raw and ratchet.
Real raw and ratchet. R&R. Even though there's no cookie cutter do XYZ thing way to build a brand, these are tips that will take you so far and that you can fall back on.
Absolutely.
And if we missed a tip that you feel like really helped accelerate you and catapult you with your brand, we would love to know and be able to share with people.
But thanks as always. Thank you for tuning in and listening to our antics. We're so excited to bring you guys just an amazing few years of content that we have planned out.
It just keeps getting
It keeps growing.
I know, and we can't wait for our next episode, but have a great week.
Yes, have a great week and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.